I am live. Hello, you're here with Tico, Tren, SYSBM. And this video is pretty much promised from earlier today because I promised I'd break it up and do a video on it because I kind of sort of ran out of a time when I was actually doing that, and I kind of sort of ran over a little bit, and I didn't want to drag the video on any longer than I already did this morning because it was like over 50 minutes basically, and I didn't want to take it over 50 minutes. So I promised to do this video for the most part on why dating somebody that's too submissive and too demure is a bad thing for the most part. So this is basically what this video is going to be about: dating a woman that's too dismissive and too demure. Um, sorry about that, too submissive and too demure. Um, let me turn on this lovely security here so I can get it started, get it popping in here. The overall problem with women that are very demure and very submissive is the fact that they tend to either a there's like three major problems. I would say four altogether, but the three major problems that stand out to me when dealing with a submissive woman or a very demure woman is my number one problem with it is their demureness or their submissiveness is usually a good indicator of their parenting style for the most part. So, however submissive she is and however demure she acts, that tends to give you a good view or a good window into the type of parent she's going to be if you were to have children with the woman. What that means is if you date somebody that's very demure or very submissive, she's going to tend to either a be a way too lax parent and let the child walk all over her, or B, you're going to have to be the parent that have to go. If you're the father of the child, you're going to have to be the parent who goes above and beyond or beyond the call of duty for the most part to actually deal with the child, which is very sad. Which actually, in a way, it kind of sort of paints you in a bad light and it makes your mom the child and the mom look like the pushover and shit. Um, which is a bad thing because you don't want you because at the end of the day, when a child gets older, he or she's going to lean more towards their mom than they are you, for the fact that you are the one that had to be the ridiculous, overbearing disciplinarian for the most part, because you have to make up for the very demure woman for the most part that you're in a relationship with. So a very demure woman tends to be a very good indicator of her parenting style and the way she's going to parent when she actually has children. She's either going to be a pushover and very easily manipulated by the children, or B, she's going to be she's just going to be take side seat basically, and pretty much the children's going to pretty much run roughshod, or she's going to be a pushover basically, and and the child's going to run roughshod, and like she's going to be a pushover and let the child pretty much walk all over her, or B, you're going to have to overcompensate for her demureness and her very the word I'm looking for, her demureness and her submissiveness basically, which is a bad thing because then be seen as the mean parent for the most part, the mean overbearing parent. Another reason why it's bad to date a very submissive woman or a very demure woman is it makes her an easy target for the most part. And what I mean by that is she's going to be easily swayed, easily manipulated, easily conned into doing any fucking thing for the most part. It's kind of like, she's not the person that you want at your house when the snake oil salesman comes by, basically, or the guy selling wood nickels, or the guy selling a bridge, just shit like that for the most part, or the guy selling whatever the fuck he's selling to basically get her to buy for the most part. that sounds like it makes her life sound any better. And that's typically a problem with women like that too, because a lot of men run into this problem with women that are very submissive and demure. They tend to be easily influenced. They tend to be very easily swayed or very easily manipulated. That's a problem in a relationship for many reasons, because that could create a myriad of problems for the most part. Um, because she's so submissive and so demure and so passive, she's going to be easy to take advantage of for the most part. She's always going to be the easiest to take advantage of. And that's number two on why it's bad to date a submissive and demure woman for the most part. So number two basically is you don't want to date a demure or submissive, very submissive woman, or an overly demure woman, for the fact that she'd be easily manipulated, easily swayed, easily tricked, and easily pretty much taken advantage of for the most part, which is a bad thing because, like I said, that's not the person you want that's in charge of, like, the household changes, when in fact she can be manipulated, changed, and swayed to get something or buy something that you really don't need. The third and final reason why it's bad to actually date a demure woman or a very submissive woman is she looks like a victim all the time. Um, what I mean by that is how people perceive her and how people perceive you and her in your relationship. Well, they might perceive her as being a victim of some type of abuse, or being a victim of, being controlled, or being having a very controlling man, or just shit along the lines of that for the most part. That's typically one of the that's one of the three problems that you'll run into if you date a very submissive or demure woman. They'll think she's a victim of, like, domestic violence, or they'll think she's a victim of, like, a very controlling and or abusive man, basically, or just shit along the lines of that. So it kind of sort of paints your relationship in a bad light if you actually date somebody that looks like that or acts like that for the most part. And no, I'm not saying run out and get into a relationship. What I'm merely saying is these are the three bad things. These are the three things that makes your relationship with a woman, with a demure woman or a very submissive woman, bad. Typically, you don't want a woman that's very submissive or very demure, because anything you do or say about her, or anything you say that can be misconstrued as you trying to be a over controlling or an abusive or overbearing boyfriend for the most part, or husband. And another thing is, like I was saying, if you're dating a demure or submissive woman, that basically is a gateway into the type of parent she's going to be when she has children. She's going to be easily manipulated by the child. She's going to be easily walked over by the child, which is a bad dynamic, because when you have a parent, you need the other parent to be as strong as you for the most part, which is really sucky when you pretty much have somebody letting the child walk all over them, and letting the child manipulate them, and letting the child run roughshod for the most part. And like I was saying, another reason why it's bad to date a very demure, submissive woman is they're very easy to persuade to do something, or sway to do something, manipulate it, and to be taken advantage of for the most part by outside people. Let it be their friends, let it be a salesman, let it be a man, let it be anything along the lines of that for the most part, because that puts your family in a dangerous situation for the most part when somebody can persuade a very demure or submissive woman into shit, basically. That pretty much jeopardizes the security of your family. It's sad, but it's so true. Um, that actually poses a big problem for a lot of people. And the sad part about that is there are a lot of men who actually end up relationships with these type of women. Would you say to it? So Holy Blade. Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, but the sad part about that is it affects the relationship majorly for the most part, and it makes it bad to the point where you have to worry about the safety of her and your loved ones for the most part if y'all have children together. And another sad thing is if you have children together, your children are probably taking advantage of the woman too, because she doesn't have the fizzle or the fire or the spice, enough spice to basically combat her children trying to take advantage of her or walk all over her. These are typically the women who, good example of women like this would be the women who you'll see on the Dr. Phil show. What's up, Corey Steele? These are the type of women that you'll see on the Dr. Phil show, where she'll be talking about that her child is just running amok and doing all this crazy shit, not listening, being disrespectful, talking back, the whole 9 yards. When in fact, somebody like me, you, and Corey Steele would be like, beat that ass, beat they ass, beat they ass. That's exactly how we would react to that shit for the most part. And the sad part about that, she's not going to do that. She's pretty much going to give you relinquish those things to you for the most part. So the sad part about that is when you actually go to discipline the child, you got to overcompensate for her demureness and her submissiveness for the most part, which is bad because now you got to be not only you got to be the dad, now you got to be the disciplinarian and to put the guy putting the foot down. So the sad part about that is when you actually do that, now she looks like a victim, and now your children look like a victim of a controlling man or an abusive man for the most part. And that's typically how that works. You don't want to be in a relationship with that woman, no matter how good it sounds. You do not want to be in a relationship with that woman for that fact that you're going to look like an abusive man, or you're going to look like you're a controlling man, or you're going to look like you got your relationship with tight and very very tight reins for the most part, and it's sad. And sadly, usually women like that are seen as high value, but the sad part about that, those women are very far and few between. But at the same time, those women in this day and age, especially in this day and age with all the shit going on in the internet and people always targeting women, they're very easy targets. They're very easy targets. And it's sad. There you go. See? I think that's what happened with my dad is exactly what Holy Blade said. And it's sadly, it's probably true. And it's, for the most part, it's probably not sad, but it's pretty much true. If you believe that's what happened to your dad for the most part. And the sad part about that is when he's actually put in that situation, 9 times out of 10, he probably doesn't even want to be put in that situation. And yeah, the sad part about that he was active military definitely doesn't help. But yeah, a lot of men are actually interested in those type of women, and they want those type of women. But the sad part about those type of women is no matter how you cut it, no matter how you do it, they're always going to be seen as a victim of like some type of they're always going to be the talk basically, or they're always going to think their friends or your neighbors are always going to think that she's abused for the most part. But close friends and family won't think that. But friends, people outside the family, and people who meet you on a day-to-day basis won't see it that way. If you know what I mean. They'll see your dad as being the very abusive, controlling, manipulative husband, basically. Meanwhile, he needs his wife to pretty much stand up and have some spice to her, or has some kick to her, has some kick to her like she's a spicy hot sauce or something, a little bit of bite to her for the most part, so he won't be ever painted in that light. And the sad part about that is the sad part about that is how that actually ends up working is he always gets painted in that light, and they never actually see what the heck is actually, they never see the full picture. And in this day and age with men are always painted as the savage abusers and all that other craziness for the most part, and women are painted as these innocent creatures. And the sad part about that, there's very few of those women that are actually innocent creatures. And the sad part about that, if you get into a relationship with one of those innocent creatures, you're always going to be looked at in a negative light, which is sad. and that's typically why you should never date a demure or submissive woman for the most part, because it both goes against you parenting wise, it goes against you family safety wise, and it works against you parenting wise for the most part. So naturally, men are going to gravitate towards that type of woman. But in this day and age, with all this stuff with the Me Too and all this other craziness, and people believe in women, or people actually trying to overprotect women when they really don't need to be protected. Um, a good example of that is when I was actually a long time ago before Mina died. I was actually out and about with Mina, and we were in public. And I remember, I think I told this story once, but I was out with her, and I went to go park the car, and I came back basically because I didn't trust the valet park, so I went to go park the car myself. So I went to so I came back, and as normally you're as a husband would do, I basically kissed her in public, and I kind of sort of grabbed the top of her ass basically when I did it. Okay, cool. A woman seen that and thought I was sexually assaulting a woman. So she literally called the cops for my wife at the time, which really sucks. And the sad part about that is it was actually none of her business, and it was basically us being lovey-dovey husband and wife for the most part before she passed away. Matter of fact, I had an incident like this actually happen with Deshari also, where a woman overreacted and called the police on me and thought I was assaulting some random woman for the most part. So this actually happened to me twice. Luckily, when the cops got there, both times, um, because we went to the restaurant so often, the maitre d and the not the maitre d, the hostess and the wait staff basically knew us, and they basically vouched for me. And I don't know if that woman ever got in trouble for I don't know if that woman ever got in trouble for filing a false police report or whatever the hell happened to her. I highly doubt she did, because she seemed like she had some privilege. So, but yeah, that's typically what happens. Shit like that actually happens quite often. And if you're dating somebody that's very demure and submissive, they're always going to look like a victim no matter what you do in other people's eyes. It's going to look like you're basically keeping her or holding her hostage for the most part to people outside of your relationship, which really sucks. On top of that, if you're dating a demure and submissive woman, when it comes to parenting, she's not going to be the greatest tag team partner when it comes to parenting, for the fact that she's going to pass most of the duties onto you, or most of the disciplinary duties are going to pass to you. So when it's all said and done, your child's going to view you as the monster, or view you as the other person that they don't want to be associated with, or you're basically not seen as daddy. You're not seen as daddy. You're seen as a monster for the most part, or seen as the aggressor. And the sad part about that, if you're dating that type of person, that's what you're going to put yourself. That's the type of line. That's the line of fire that you're going to put yourself in front of. On top of that, like I said, the whole entire family safety thing comes into play when you actually date a very submissive or a very demure woman, for the fact that she can always be swayed. She can always be swayed. She can always be manipulated. She can always be controlled and or tricked into doing something by a salesman or another human being for the most part, that might not be in her best interest, or might not be in your family's best interest for the most part. So it's one of those things where where your children need a nanny, and she probably needs a nanny too. So she won't get herself in trouble by accident for the most part. And that's typically what you got to worry about with very demure or very submissive women, because there's a lot of the times they tend to get themselves into shit by accident for no reason whatsoever, based on their general nature of their demureness and their submissiveness. They will get themselves into trouble. Um, that's pretty much it for that, and I really don't need to drag this on. And I'm sorry I didn't put this in the other podcast. I'm sorry I didn't put this in the other podcast, but I didn't want to drag the other podcast on any longer than it needed to be drug on. Um, Anything along the lines of that for the most part. So, y'all have a good night. Be blessed. And good night to all of y'all guys.